Can't decide what coral to get for your reef tank?
Let us help you out. Here are our top 5 favorite coral for beginners.
Hi, and welcome back to the channel. As you guys might know, we love to say that reefing is not as hard as a lot of people make it out to seem.
We love making small, low-maintenance reef tanks like this 1-gallon no-filter bowl.
Or this 14-gallon no-filter reef tank. A huge part of keeping these reefs low maintenance and easy to maintain is in our coral selection. So today we're going to talk about 5 of our top favorite corals for beginners.
We're going to start by quickly going over what coral even are, what they need, specifically what makes a coral easy to keep or hard to keep, and then we're going to dive into our top picks. For each of the coral that we talk about today, we're going to go over what their favorite parameters are, the general care that they need, and our tips and tricks so that you can decide whether this coral is right for you and your tank.
So first off, what are coral? Coral are animals, not plants. Coral are small, soft-bodied marine animals similar to jellyfish or anemones. Each individual animal is called a polyp, and they live in colonies together. Each polyp has a mouth at the center, surrounded by a ring of tentacles.
These tentacles actually pack a potent sting, which keeps the coral safe, allows it to hunt for its prey, and maintain its territory. We're going to have to keep this sting and the aggression level of the coral in mind when we're stocking our tank and ranking these different coral. So now you guys know what coral are, but what do they need? And what makes a coral good for beginners or not? First up, food. Coral need to eat. They're animals. They eat tiny zooplankton or crustaceans like shrimp. However, some coral have a symbiotic relationship with a photosynthetic algae that lives in their cells. This lets them convert light into energy just like a plant. And guys, these coral are so much easier to take care of for beginners than coral that you have to feed all the time. A lot of the corals on this list are going to be photosynthetic corals. These awesome light-eating coral bring us to the next thing we care about, which is
light. Different kinds of corals need different levels of light. The strength of light in your reef is typically measured by PAR. When you look up a certain coral, it usually says does best under blank PAR. You can measure PAR in your reef tank if you're really serious with a PAR meter, but the general rule is the lower in your reef tank, the less light that coral is receiving. And the higher the coral is, the more light it's receiving, right? Makes sense. So if you have a coral that says it likes low light, you might want to put them towards the bottom of the tank. If they like high light, you would move them toward the top of your tank. And if they like medium light, then try to give them a spot in the middle.
If you've got lots of overhangs in your tank or places where the rock sticks out, you can also use these shady areas as low light areas that are a little bit out of the light. So it's not just up and down, you can think about shade as well. Or if your tank gets direct sun and it's getting light from outside the tank, that might be a higher light area as well.
Easier coral are generally more tolerant of a variety of lighting conditions instead of being super picky. The coral will tell you what it wants. If it's reaching upwards and getting really long, it probably wants to be closer to the light. If it's very flat or even closed, it might want less light.
Next up is our water parameters. There's a lot of stuff in saltwater besides just salt. There's going to be minerals and nutrients including ammonia, nitrate, nitrite, phosphate, alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, and even more. Once again, different coral are going to tolerate different levels of each parameter. We're going to make a super long, in-depth video on everything you need to know about reefing that's going to go into all of these parameters in more detail, but for now, just know that easy coral are more tolerant of a wider variety of values. So if something is happy with low magnesium and high magnesium, that's going to be easier for you to keep as a beginner than something that needs a very specific value.
Okay, next up, we're going to talk about flow. Coral also care about flow. Some really like high flow and want to be blasted by the pump. Some really like low flow and can't tolerate being whipped around too much, and some like it somewhere in the middle. But most importantly, more than anything we talked about, coral don't like change. They want stability. Stability is probably the most important thing in your reef tank. Swings in nutrients, salinity, lighting, and flow can really hurt your coral. The thing that separates a hardy coral from a fragile one is how well they can tolerate changes in the parameters.
The final thing you guys might want to consider is the budget. All the coral that we're listing today are pretty budget friendly. You should be able to get a frag for 10 to 25 US dollars, but like with anything, some of these are going to have designer types or special colors that can get into the hundreds of dollars, or if you're getting a really big frag, it might be a lot more expensive. But the base level prices shouldn't be too bad. It might just depend on your local fish store or your area, so we're just going off averages. If you see a coral from this list that you really like, we recommend that you guys go ahead and look it up, learn all about it, watch a bunch of videos, read a bunch of stuff, because the more you know, the more likely it is that you're gonna succeed.
Okay, so with that out of the way, we are going to get into our top 5 beginner corals. For each one, we'll tell you about their food, light, parameters, aggression, and everything else you might need to know to get started.
First off, at number 1, and the easiest coral in our opinion, we're coming out swinging with a controversial pick. This is pulsing xenia. It is a favorite among beginner reefers because it is one of the few corals that move very actively. It is completely mesmerizing to watch it dance around. It's very hardy, tolerant of a ton of different conditions, and it grows like a weed. However, we have to warn you, it is also hated by many experienced reefers for its ability to grow rapidly and completely take over a tank. So let's talk about pulsing xenia.
We're also including clove polyps into this section. They look a lot like pulsing xenia minus the pulsing, but they come in a lot of different colors and their care is basically the same, so we're gonna lump them into this. Xenia is what's called a soft coral, meaning that it doesn't grow a hard calcified skeleton. Most soft corals are generally easier to keep than stony corals or the hard corals. But don't worry, we're gonna touch on some easy stony coral later on in our list.
Pulsing xenia are not very picky when it comes to their parameters, which is great. They don't need to be fed, they are photosynthetic, and they absorb nutrients directly from the water column. They can tolerate basically any lighting and any of the normal reef parameters. They do prefer a little bit more dirty water, so that means high nutrients, high nitrates, high phosphates, but they can still tolerate a wide range. They can go as dirty as 15 parts per million nitrates and above, so these guys will survive a nasty tank. They can tolerate basically any flow, but I think that they pulse more under a low to moderate flow. If it's really high and they're just kind of bent over, you're not going to see that cool pom-pom action.
So here are some of our top tips on keeping xenia. First off, if you don't want your whole tank to be taken over by xenia, keep it on an island and don't be afraid to cut it. Keeping xenia isolated on a rock like this one will prevent it to spreading to a larger section of your scape. You may still have to stay vigilant and trim sections that get too close or remove sections from the sand because they can kind of walk and find their way when it gets too crowded. Xenia can be pretty easily trimmed with a sharp pair of scissors or a razor, and the coral frags you cut off can be attached to a frag plug and moved around within that same tank or given to other reefers.
So if you want some pulsing xenia, it might be worth posting on Facebook or something, or looking around in your area, because if someone else has it, they'll probably be willing to give some away. And then just to repeat what we said earlier, they like it dirty and high nutrients. So if your xenia isn't doing too well, your tank might just be too clean. If you don't mind some occasional trimming, these guys are an awesome addition to any reef tank. But it is time for number 2.
Zoanthids. This is probably one of William's favorite corals. These guys are another soft photosynthetic coral. They come in a huge variety of sizes and colors. People often keep a few different colors and varieties together in what is called a zoa garden. You could have a really interesting tank with just zoas, and some can grow really quick. Check out the difference just a few months can make.
Like xenia, zoas do not need to be fed, but they will grow faster if you feed them. They like low to moderate light and low to moderate flow, but generally they can tolerate a pretty wide range. Again, they're going to tolerate all the normal parameter ranges, but they do well with moderate nitrate levels like 0 to 5 ppm, not quite as high as the xenia. As far as flow goes, I think moderate flow is perfect. If sand settles in between the polyps, it can lead to health problems like zoopox, so I actually like to keep them on a little higher flow, like moderate to high flow, direct flow. I put some of ours right in front of the power head, but keeping them off the sand bed will also help to avoid zoopox. You see a lot of people keep them right on top of the sand, and they get little grains of sand that get kicked up from the hermit crabs and stuff in between the zoas, and then they don't like that and they stop growing.
They aren't particularly aggressive, but some kinds can grow really fast and they might try to take over your rocks. Unlike xenia, they're a little bit harder to trim back, so maybe don't put them right next to your favorite coral unless that other coral's sting is strong enough to keep the zoas at bay. In our tank, the zoas actually kind of compete with each other, and there's a really fast growing one that's kind of suffocating some of the others.
But we cannot talk about zoas without mentioning palytoxin. A lot of zoas can release a very potent toxin called palytoxin when they are injured or cut. If this gets in your body, it can cause death, and there is no antidote or antivenom, guys. So be very careful when handling zoas, and be especially careful when cutting or fragging them. If you're working with them, we recommend wearing gloves and making sure not to touch your face or you put your fingers in their mouth or something. If you're gonna frag them and you're cutting them open with a saw or something to sell or give to other people, make sure to wear full PPE. That's just our PSA. We know that some people just be touching them all the time, and we don't think that's very good. So don't do that.
Next up at number 3 is my favorite, these guys. These are rock flower anemones. And yeah, we're cheating a little bit because these, like they say in the name, are anemones, not coral. But they're so easy and fun that we had to put them on the list.
Anemone are kind of like coral, but they breed much more slowly and they can move around and sting everything in their path. But rock flowers are special. They reproduce sexually, so they won't be constantly splitting, dividing, and filling up your whole tank. They're much more hardy than something like a carpet anemone or a bubble tip anemone, and they like to bury themselves in the sand, and they hardly ever move, so you don't have to worry about them walking around the tank and stinging all your coral. Ours moved at most a couple inches in their very first week in the tank and have never moved since.
Unlike other species that we've discussed so far, RFAs require feeding. They eat small frozen food like mysis or brine shrimp, or prepared coral food like reefroids 1 to 3 times a week. We like to put our dried food in a pepper grinder and feed a few twists to the tank daily. The food will get carried throughout the water column, and our RFAs will be able to reach out and get some. We feed the frozen food through a pipette after it's thawed out in some water around once a week.
They like moderate to low flow and moderate lighting. This is perfect because they like to hang out at the bottom and bury their feet in the sand. So just put them basically anywhere at the bottom of your tank and they'll be pretty happy. And the good news is, since they can walk on their little foot, if it's not too far, they're going to move around a little bit to find what's most comfortable to them. So you don't have to place them in the exact perfect spot, they'll find it themselves.
They can tolerate a wide range of parameters, but value stability even more than some corals on this list. So a lot of people recommend making sure that your reef is really established and stable for at least a few months before adding in rock flowers. We added our first one within the first month, but our tank was pretty stable.
They're pretty peaceful. Their sting is strong enough to keep coral from growing over them, which is good, but they're not going to go and attack anything. And a super cool feature is their symbiotic relationship with animals like sexy shrimp and anemone crab that will actually come and live inside them. So we have a pair of sexy shrimp that host inside our rock flowers, and the rock flowers completely leave them alone, even though they could sting other fish and invertebrates if they got too close. There's a rumor that rock flowers will eat your fish or your clownfish, but this is not true as far as we can tell. This really only happens if your fish is already dying or dead and it's floating around the tank, winds up in the anemone's grasp, and then you see your anemone chewing on a fish and you go, oh my god, it ate it. But they are not out here hunting down your fish. We've seen ours try and eat a hermit crab before that walked a little too close and it got grabbed by a tentacle, but they usually give up pretty quickly once they realize the hermit crab is a hard-shelled crab and not a yummy piece of shrimp that's been hand-fed to them.
Next up, we have our first stony coral, Frogspawn. You could also include hammer coral in this too. They're both euphelia coral, and the only real difference is the shape of their tentacles. Frogspawn are an LPS, or large polyp stony coral. They grow a calcified skeleton structure which their polyps emerge from. These polyps are quite large compared to other coral, hence large polyp stony coral.
For reference on how big these polyps are, check out this guy right here. This is one head, so this is one polyp right here, and it's as big as 5 or 6 zoa polyps put together.
Since they grow a hard external skeleton, these are the first corals so far that are going to suck out a lot of things from our saltwater. The skeletons are made of calcium carbonate, which will remove both calcium and carbonate from your water. The process of making their skeletons will also use up magnesium and lower your alkalinity. Depending on the size of your tank and how many LPS you have, this might actually not be a big deal. A lot of people are able to get by just doing their regular water changes to replenish all the ions and minerals within the tank.
If that ends up not being sufficient, you guys are going to have to start dosing. That's when you periodically add just a little bit of trace elements to your tank to make sure that the levels stay consistent and your corals are kept happy. If you're worried that your corals are changing the levels in your tank, go ahead and test your water a week or so apart and see if any levels dramatically go down. If your magnesium drops by 0.1 a week, then maybe you need to add 0.1 a week. If you don't want to test your water, don't worry. A lot of aquarium stores offer water tests. And if that sounds scary, also don't worry. Dosing is definitely not a requirement to keeping a roof tank, and it's not even required to keeping LPS. But if your LPS starts struggling or their growth starts really slowing down, it's something that you might want to consider.
Frogspawn don't require food, but they will grow a lot faster if you feed them a few times a week. They like to grow in low to medium light and flow. If the flow is too high, they might curl up. So at a lower flow, you can really see their tentacles puff up. They can tolerate a range of parameters, but since they're a stony coral, they like their magnesium and calcium carbonate.
They don't grow quite as fast as a lot of the other coral on this list, but they can be a bit aggressive. Euphelia coral, like Frogspawn, often send out something called sweeper tentacles. These are small, almost invisible tentacles that go a lot longer than the tentacles that you can see. They can use these to sting nearby coral. You should give your Frogspawn 3 to 4 inches of just empty space around it to prevent it from stinging other coral. You can put Frogspawn right next to Frogspawn though, or Frogspawn next to your hammers, and they should be fine. They can tolerate stinging each other, but just keep all those Euphelia a little bit distant from the rest of your coral. The reason torch coral didn't make this list with its cousins, hammer and Frogspawn, is because torch coral sweeper tentacles are a lot longer and it's going to be hard to keep them in a small reef tank.
Finally, last but not least, number 5 is the Duncan coral. It's another easy and fast growing LPS. This Duncan has been growing in our no filter 1 gallon bowl like crazy. It's over doubled in size in about 2 months. Like the rock flower anemone, they have a really obvious feeding behavior that's pretty fun to watch. However, you don't have to feed them. They are photosynthetic and will do just fine with light. Duncans can tolerate a variety of lighting conditions as long as they're stable. Duncans like low to medium flow. In lower flow, Duncans will extend further and they will shrink down into a more compact shape in areas of strong current. If the flow is too strong directly on the Duncan, it can hurt it. They tolerate a variety of parameters, but prefer lower nitrates overall.
Duncan coral can grow super quickly, but they are not aggressive. They don't have those sweeper tentacles like the Frogspawn, so you don't have to isolate them or put them super far from your other corals. So those are our top 5 favorite beginner corals. Ultimately, the best coral for you is going to be the one that gets you really excited. If you love looking at it and you think it's the most awesome thing in the world and you learn all about it, then you're going to be focused on giving it all the care it needs and it's going to have the best shot at surviving.
Let us know what your favorite coral is or which easy ones should have made it onto our list. Thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, drop a coral emoji in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, then make sure to hit that like button, hype it up, and subscribe to see more reefing and vivariums.
Our 2026 resolution is to hit 10,000 subscribers, so your engagement really helps us. That's all for this one, and we're gonna see you guys in the next one. We've got a lot of fun reefing videos coming up, so stay tuned.
Bye.
Bye.